When I was really thinking about how do I change the culture, the question I asked myself is, well, what am I supposed to change it to? And there were a lot of great ideas about culture out in the marketplace. I read hundreds of books, but I couldn't find something that was like, what is the blueprint you're supposed to do that works for every company? And so I went back and really worked on this. I developed these 7 pillars. We tested it. We researched it. I worked within many, many different organizations. These 7 things consistently work in every organization, no matter who you are. If you're good at these 7, have a great culture. Now, how you interpret these, how you go about this, that's different company by company. If you're a med tech company, it's going to be totally different than if you're doing an AI SaaS company or something.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Ignite podcast. Today we're thrilled to have Chris Dyer, an award-winning keynote speaker, best-selling author, and one of the most recognized thought leaders in organizational culture and remote work. Chris is the former CEO of PeopleG2, a 5-time Inc. 5000 honoree. We'll talk about that. And now spends his time advising companies, delivering high-impact keynotes and leading conversations around leadership, performance, and the future of work. His book, The Power of Company Culture and Remote Work. Are those 2 books or 1 book?
Those are 2 different books.
Oh, okay. We'll talk about both of those, especially the remote work one. That's pretty fascinating. They become foundational reads for leaders navigating modern workplaces. Thanks for coming on, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian.
So I'd love to get a walkthrough of your early career. What led you from sociology to building PeopleG2, and what's PeopleG2?
PeopleG2 is a human capital company. We did background checks, employment screening, drug testing, assessments. Like when you hired somebody, we made sure they were who they said they were and that they had the right maybe personality traits or qualifications, things like that. So we helped organizations from tiny little mom and pops to Fortune, 100 clients all over the world.
That's amazing. So how did you get to doing that from sociology? That must be quite the story.
Yeah, I got my degree in that because I really am fascinated by why do people do what they do? I didn't really know then what would that lead to. I just couldn't really decide on a degree. I hated my business classes, which of course I ended up in business and I should have stayed in my business courses, but I hated them so much that I was like, these sociology classes are amazing. I love them. I love talking about.
I wish I would have got a degree in sociology.
Yeah.
That is my favorite subject. And by happenstance, I did not take any sociology undergrad courses, so I never got exposed. But I realized I came into college as a history major, and I realized what I loved about history was the sociology of it.
Right. Understanding why people did things, why do these events happen, and
the institutions that drive behavior, and like how structure creates behavier, and
or
organizations and people,
behavior, or whatever it is, right? All these things are amazing. And so I just went, and I was, right at the end of college, I was running a restaurant, and that was fun. And then someone offered me a job helping open up hotels in Hollywood. I was sort of just at the opening of that. First, I was running security departments, then valet departments. And next thing I know, I'm basically the head of operations for this organization that was basically taking kind of rundown hotels in Hollywood, and they were turning them into big properties. And it was an incredible journey. It was so much fun. I learned so much, everything from how to, sweep cocaine off the table to how to keep stars and people happy to, whatever the day needed.
I love how you just dropped that in there.
Right. Whatever the day needed, make sure Brad Pitt and
whatever the moment calls for, this is how you properly clean up cocaine in Hollywood.
This is how you do it so that, no children are harmed in the morning when they show up because the party went really well the night before. Back then it was how do you keep Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston their meeting secret at the hotel because they were dating at the time. This is that long ago. And so I learned so much, but I always tell this story. The person who hired me was amazing. She had the absolute confidence in me. I mean, on paper, I should have never been hired. I didn't have any of the traditional things you would think of. I didn't really worked in a hotel before. I had the experience of running a restaurant, and so maybe that gave me something. But, she just believed in me. She had an interview with me and thought that I had the right head on my shoulders to figure out the chaos of this business. And from day one, when she gave me something to do, it was like, hey, Chris, go figure this out. And I was like, cool, I'll go figure it out. And I'd come back to her. If I needed help, she'd help me. But she wasn't a micromanager. She was a believer. She was one of those great bosses that just really made me want to step up my game, want to please her, want to show her I could do amazing work. And it was fantastic.
This is at the hotel.
At the hotel, right. And then
Wow.
she got another job in New York and offered for me to come along with her. The problem was I was dating this girl who's now my wife, and I wasn't going to leave, Orange County, LA County area. I was going to stay here because I had the girl and thought, I'll just see how it goes. And so she leaves and in comes Steve. And Steve is really, really good at three things: complaining, criticizing, and conspiracies. And it was amazing how this man completely changed everything that was happening in this organization overnight, right? Because he was paranoid and he was criticizing everybody, and nothing was ever done right or was never to his standards. And suddenly I realized I just want this guy to shut up. Like, I just need him to just stop talking to me. I'm so frustrated and I just want to go home. And then I remember home is a 2-hour drive in traffic.
At that time of day.
At
Right?
that time,
Yeah.
I never cared about my commute. I would gladly got in the car every day, sat in traffic for 2 hours, listened to my audiobook on CD. This is back before Audible existed. And I was happy, right? I put up
I had the Audible Otis.
Right,
Remember that?
Yeah. But I was happy when she was my boss. And when he became my boss, that commute was miserable. Everything about my job was miserable, but I was doing the same thing. And that was that first moment for me of who your boss is, who you are as a leader really has a huge impact on everything and everyone in that organization. And so eventually then I went work for another company. Then I went and started my own company. And when 9/11 happened, that was like my big, why am I working for somebody else? I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've always wanted my own business. And that was the last sort of universe hitting me across the head and being, hey, go start your company now, dude. Like, you've learned enough. Go make it happen.
Wow. So you're at the hotel and you have this epiphany that, bosses make a huge impact. The old phrase is you don't quit jobs, you quit bosses, right? You quit your manager. And I've definitely had that exact experience in corporate life where things are going great at my job and I get reorged under a new boss and not a good boss. And, next thing I know, I'm out of there 6-12 months later, and the work just changes. So tell us about that journey of going from the hotel to starting a company. It seems like you went directly from working at the hotel to starting a company,
So what happened was, this was a background check company that we did our checks through for the hotel, and they had a opening, and I found out that they were like 4 blocks or something really close to my house where I live.
Nice. In LA, that's everything.
Well, yeah. And so I was actually living in Orange County. That's why I had the long commute. And so they were in Orange County. And so I'm like, cool. So I got the same salary, got rid of the commute, got to learn a new business. The problem is the person who ran the company was also a bad boss. So I got rid of several problems, but kept the bad boss problem. But I was learning a new business. It was really exciting. And then I did that for like a year and a half. And 9/11 happened. And I was like, forget it. And I started. So by November 1st of 2001, right in the middle of a recession after the largest terrorist attack in our country's history, I'm too stupid and too young to know I shouldn't start a business. I went and started a business, right? And a bunch of clients came over with me and off to the races I went.
And this is PeopleG2.
Yeah, when we started, our name was Liberty Alliance. Later on, we changed it to something better. Everyone thought we were Liberty Mutual. Like, half our phone calls that came in were, do you guys sell insurance?
It did sound like an insurance company.
It was funny. My mom and I had both come up with a list of names for the company, and we both had written Liberty Alliance on our own. But at the moment, there was this huge amount of patriotism, right? Everyone had their flag out. It was that post. I don't know. I think there was something about the Statue of Liberty and patriotism like running around in your head that kind of started. And then we realized what a terrible name that was for communicating who we were. We changed it later on.
So it sounds like it went well. I mean, it was named the best place to work, one of the fastest growing companies. You brought some of those leadership and management lessons. What are some of the core principles you embedded into that culture early on?
Well, what was interesting was I was trying to figure out how to grow the business, run the business, and be a business, owner for many years. And we started off small. We had people I knew, and kind of go through those growing pains. You have 10 people, and you have 25 people, and you have 50 people, and like figuring all that out was a struggle. And it wasn't until the recession of 2009 hit that I realized that I had not really built the culture in a way. I was trying to be a great leader, but I hadn't really built the culture, because now I have thousands of people across the country. And we never really made that shift from how we were when we had 25 people in the office to something better for a really large organization. And when 9/11 happened, I had like really double or tripled down on mortgage companies because they were the number one hiring industry in the country.
I worked in mortgages out of college. I remember I was at AmeriQuest, if you remember those guys.
Right. I mean, they couldn't
Yeah,
keep people and they couldn't hire
right.
people fast enough. And it was just this rotating door. And I'm making, money hand over fist off of them. And then in 2009, recession hits and they all close their doors. So I lose 40% of my clients and I lose 40% of my receivables. And the question is how are we going to survive? And it was two really distinct things I did in that moment that I talk a lot about in my keynotes. One is I just stopped trying to be the CEO who was involved in everything. And instead, I made my job, my only job, to make the culture good. How do I make things good for people? How do I make meetings better? How do I help teams that are struggling? How do I skill managers? How do I make sure we have good managers and we get rid of the bad? Like my job was just to be the culture champion, right?
Yeah, you went from having like a manager mindset to having like a coaching mindset.
Yeah.
Like, how do I
But I also
coach people and lead people?
I also stop being involved in sales and I stopped being involved in marketing and stopped being involved in accounting. Like I was in all those meetings and I was helping and like I was like literally pulled out and said, you guys know what you're doing, go do it. My job is there a team that you have that's struggling? I want to go figure out why, right? And that will ultimately help the accounting department or the sales team or whatever it is more than me showing up and going, well, I think we should, change this PowerPoint to blah, 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 blah.
Seagull leadership, flying in and shitting on everything. And then
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And so that radically helped us. But also to be able to save the company and to not have to lay a single person off, we went 100% remote, which in 2009.
What year was this?
2009. So this was like,
wow, that's early.
Radical, right? We didn't tell anybody. We pretended we were all in an office. Like this was not cool back then to do.
Yeah. Yeah, people would kind of like look at you sideways like, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We use Zoom internally and like to make phone calls. We use freeconferencecall.com to talk to our clients, have conference calls.
Was Zoom a thing back then? It wasn't quite out, right?
I'm sorry, Skype. We use
Skype, yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Because like literally buy phone plans so my people could make outbound calls. I mean, there was no like, eventually we got Ring Central, like there began to be better tools and things like that.
What was your internal chat back then? Like, how were you guys chatting?
We weren't, right?
Oh, wow.
And then eventually like HipChat came along.
Right, HipChat. Yeah, that's what
we had that
originally used.
But like, our internal chat was, maybe I guess was Skype. We could use Skype for chat, but like not so team centric. It was more like one-on-one. You could send messages and things like that. So we had to solve all these crazy problems and we had to like totally redo our meetings and figure out how to operate in a totally different way, which is all about what that book's about how we actually made remote work. And I think so many people when COVID happened, they basically just sent people home and like tried to do what they were doing in the office, but like on Zoom. And that just is terrible and it sucks for people. And so I spent all of COVID working with companies and teaching them how to actually run their meetings, run a company remotely or with hybrid, because it's totally different, right? It's a totally different model. And it can be awesome. And it can be.
And you learn these lessons
right
the hard way, doing it and kind of groping your way through the dark of remote work. Like, what are some of the things that you learned that you instill in companies now going remote first? And maybe also by the same vein, like what are some things that people get wrong when they switch?
Yeah, I'll tell you the most important thing, and people are going to freak out when I say this. One-on-one meetings are killing your company when you are remote and hybrid. And so can you work one-on-one with someone for a project? Absolutely. Can you do one-on-one if like you need to coach them or mentor them or they're having a problem or they've been inappropriate? Absolutely. But if you are having a regular one-on-one every Monday at 10 a.m. with one of your direct reports, that does not work, right? So managers are trying to have all these one-on-one meetings and they're repeating the same thing over and over and over and over and over again.
I mean, I did this when I was remote and I had a team at Microsoft. I was doing the weekly one-on-one and why doesn't it work?
It doesn't work because, one, we can't move information around efficiently. When we're all together in an office, it's fine for you to have a one-on-one coaching thing, but the information has already been moved and exchanged and somehow permeated through the company because people are all in the same spot. Okay. And so when you're actually having a call, maybe to be more mentoring or whatever, then you're in a better spot. But number two, most of the time, be honest, how many times did you cancel those calls? How many times did you like get bumped?
We ended up, yeah, I think we naturally gravitated towards making them more about coaching. And so we stopped doing them every week.
Yeah.
And started doing them every other week.
Yeah.
And then we'd have like a topic. So call it the fourth week would be the coaching one.
Mm-hmm.
And the second week, biweekly would be more about projects. So it's like once a month on projects, once a month on coaching.
And so, Brian,
but I think that naturally you kind of learn that over time, that like sitting here and talking for a half hour about what's going on every single week is a waste of time.
Total waste of time. And yet a lot of companies mandate it. And I'm sure you are great at it, but a whole lot of managers are terrible at it. And so what we learned with remote and hybrid was that if we shifted this to the team, right? Take this, have a team meeting for an hour, once a week. And that whole team meeting is about how is everyone doing with their goals? We're all coaching each other. We're all keeping each other accountable. And what happens is now that information is in the light. And what I found was that managers were really struggling with the fact that when they're in a one-on-one with someone and they're telling them, well, I can't get this done because Susie's being mean to me and John won't give me the report. And like, you don't really know, it's like, who's telling the truth and what's happening. You get them all in a meeting and you're like, so what's happening with your goals, Susie? She can't say, well, John is not being nice to me. And if that's not the truth, right? It creates this completely different level of accountability and communication. And what I find is that teams want to succeed. When you get them together and you give them a scoreboard and you're like, this is what we're trying to achieve, they want to get there. And they all want to help each other with their goals and they want to help each other be successful if they all know what they're each supposed to be doing. And when you're in these little silos and you leave it up to the manager to have to be the one to help that person to get there, assuming the manager even cares or wants that person to get there, right? It just doesn't work. The information it's sort of like you're flipping it upside down, right? And you're getting the information back into the team meeting. You as the leader only have to meet with them once. You only have to say the thing once, right? You don't have to keep repeating it. It's not like telephone to 15 different direct reports all day long. And everyone gets a lot more efficient. Now, can you then go and do a one-on-one because there's something that person needs help with? Sure, great, no problem. But those repeating one-on-ones are the death of organizations. And I find when I go in and organizations tell me our managers are totally fried, they feel like they're just overwhelmed. And I go in and like, I look at their calendars and it's just meeting.
And one-on-one meetings as far as the eye can see.
A team meeting. It might even be a team meeting, project meeting, one-on-one. And I'm like, how do you get anything done? And like, well, I get my work done at night. Well, that's not healthy,
That'll burn you out.
It'll burn you out real quick. So we have to do it differently. Now
sounds like my life as a VC, actually. It's like meeting.
Right.
Maybe I should start having like founders pitch me in a group.
You should. I mean, why not have
that'd be kind of fun.
Why not have those, several of those people come together? I mean, listen, one of the best things I ever did was be involved in a CEO group. They all know what my goals are. They're all coaching me. They're all smart people, right? And so and there's some level of like, we all sign an NDA and there's all like a little protection and there's like, we're all going to keep our mouths shut up and we're going to talk about real serious things. I mean, there's something there to make everyone feel psychologically safe, but it's the idea of group therapy. Like, do you need group therapy or do you need individual therapy? And I find most people need group therapy. They need a team, a group of people to help them get along, help them solve challenges and problems, feel the pain, feel the excitement, high five. They don't need a therapist.
Yeah.
That's one-on-one, right? Unless you're
you just need people to listen and be there for you and maybe offer some advice if you ask for it.
Right.
Yeah.
And how much of your time would be got if you started doing this in like pods of 5, right?
That's not a bad idea. Maybe I'll start doing a Team Ignite pitch office hours, every, I don't know. And then I'll just invite founders to it. Like, hey, you can find some time with me or come to the group.
Yeah. And
group pitch therapy.
And I'll bet you the group would have other ideas and they would have other feedback and they would see other things, right? And so that person's going to walk away with even more value from that experience. And so
yeah, that's interesting.
That's the big shift where I think people really get stuck. Now, the second part is to redesign your meetings. If you're going to have meetings and you're showing up to the same terrible meeting over and over and over again, you're going to get the same terrible outcome. And so what I noticed is that people kept having the same 30-minute Zoom meeting or the same 1-hour Zoom meeting over and over. And then they started complaining. People don't have their cameras on. People don't participate. People don't speak up. People don't tell me what they're really thinking or bring their ideas to the table. Well, of course not, because you've invited them to a meeting and you haven't told them what their role is. You haven't told them what they're supposed to do in this meeting. And it's a little bit easier to understand when you're in an office, right? And you're called to a meeting and you have some sense of like who's going to be there and what's going to happen. You talk to a few of your friends around the office. Oh, the CEO's coming to the meeting. Somehow, like we figured out what we were supposed to do. But when we're all separated and I get called to a meeting for 30 minutes and I can see who's on the list and I haven't been told, am I supposed to speak, shut up, present, have ideas, nod my head? Like, what's my role? And so we designed all of these different meeting types, and I'm happy to talk you through a few of them.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah,
so that
for the
it
benefit
told
of the audience.
people
Yeah.
what they were supposed to do. First one, the most successful one we did, and this would happen 40, 50 times a day in our company, is called a cockroach meeting. So take this right now. If you're listening, you will love this. Your team will love this. Here are the rules for the cockroach meeting. Anybody can call the meeting. This is not a manager has to call it. Anyone can call the meeting.
Anybody can say, "Hey, I think we're done with this meeting."
No, anyone can raise their hand and say, "Hey, I need help with this thing. I want to call a cockroach meeting. I don't know how to turn on my computer. Listen to me silly. I don't know how to find the pitch deck. I don't know how to
get this sales forecast for Q3, whatever.
Whatever. Yeah. So I need help, and you're allowed to invite anybody you want. Now, if you think the CEO is the right person to invite, you can do it technically, but you need to think about constraint and like who are the right.
When you say call a meeting, I think of like closing a meeting. So you're initiate a meeting.
Initiate a meeting. Anyone can initiate the meeting. So there's no hierarchy. There's no control there. It's a small problem. You have a cockroach in your bathroom. It's a small problem. You may not want to be the one to clean it up, but it's a single issue. I have a single issue. I need help. You invite 5 to 7 people. You send out an invite, whatever. 1:00 today. I need help with the sales forecasting. Whoever can help me. The people that show up are the people who can help. The people who want to know the answer, want to learn, right? And it's optional for them to attend. So you can be invited to a cockroach.
Everybody's optional.
Totally optional. I get invited.
And you call it a cockroach. This is a cockroach meeting for sales forecast. And I'm inviting these 5 people and they all know, hey, it's optional.
They know it's optional. And they're like, yeah, I can show for 15 minutes and help you. Cool. Or I'm busy, decline. And no one's mad. It's like, I can't go. I can't be there. I don't have time for this, whatever. But, you get a few people to show up who say they can help. So it's a 15-minute meeting. You start on time. You try to end early. So the average cockroach meeting used to be 8 minutes long. And it's just...
So you schedule for a half hour. It's just to solve this thing. Yeah.
15 minutes is the absolute max, right? Because it's...
Oh, you actually put it for 15 minutes on the
15
calendar?
15 minute is the lock, and you're always trying to end early. So you come in, hey, I don't know how to do the sales forecast. Oh, yeah, you know what? I tried this, maybe this other thing. And it might be, you know what? I really think you need to talk to Tom. Tom is the expert in this. Okay, cool. I'll schedule a meeting with Tom. Thanks, everyone. Boom. Now you've gotten in 7-8 minutes unstuck. You didn't spend hours on Google, hours on ChatGPT, hours on YouTube. You didn't call people 15 freaking times all day long trying to get your answer. You got your fix in 7 minutes, right? Or just unstuck. You got told where to go to what's the next step, right? So that empowered everyone in the organization to go get the answers, to go get
unblocked.
Yeah,
because
they don't need to wait for their boss and their one-on-one meeting on Monday in order to finally get their question answered. Do you know how long people used to wait a whole week and they would just sit, the project wouldn't move.
And speed is everything in business. I mean,
right.
That cadence. Yeah.
So throw it into Slack or throw it into Teams. Hey, I need this. Here's my deal. Cockroach meeting at 1. Who can join me? Right. Or send it out. You email it out to the people.
Would you try to solve that in a channel?
You could. In
a Slack channel. Absolutely. Before you have the meeting?
Absolutely. You could definitely ask, hey, does anyone know how to do this thing? But I find there's some wisdom about just that coming together, having that little interaction. There's no how you doing, how are the kids, how's the weather? None of that, right? It's just, man, meetings at 1:00. At 1:00 we're starting. We're talking about the thing. We're done. Bye, everyone. It is like super tight. It's as if I bumped into you in the hallway. Hey, you know the sales forecast thing? And you're like, yeah, do this, this, this. Okay, cool. See you later. Like, there's no hey, how's the kids? What are you having for lunch? And then suddenly it's a 30-minute meeting. We don't need that. We need it to be tight. But it's empowering people. Now, we had another version of this, which was very similar, called the Ostrich meeting. All the rules are the same. It was just meant to be, I don't know how to do something. Who can help me get my head out of the sand? So it was like, who knows how to do a pivot table in Excel? Who can teach me how to do this thing? Like, I just need teaching moments. Not that I have a problem and I'm stuck. It's like, I literally don't know how to do this. Like, can someone just show me real quick?
Where do these names come from? How'd you come up with Cockroach and Ostrich?
Cockroach was just like this idea that, there's a cockroach in your bathroom. It's like a little annoyance.
Yeah, we need to like really quickly take care of this.
The ostrich was like, and again, and then it was like the ostrich, it was very visual for people. They could understand their head is in the sand, and you could, how do you pull my head out? We also use the ostrich.
Help me pull my head out of the sand.
Right.
Okay, got it.
I don't remember how to do a pivot table again. Like, what was that? And again, it was empowering. People could get unstuck. They could just,
or write a macro. That'd be even harder. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the answer could even, again, a lot of times was just, we don't really know, but we know who you should go talk to. And that was really helpful. Also use the ostrich meeting so I had a big problem with people taking their vacations. They were really dedicated. They worked really hard.
They wouldn't take their vacation.
They wouldn't take their vacation. They wouldn't take their full amount of days. And so I started like mandating they had to take them every year and and that didn't really work that great either.
Would they accumulate? So they had like certain number of days available and they'd roll over?
Yeah.
Or would they expire?
And then like for some people, because we're in California, it was like you had to pay them out. And then like,
yeah, you have to pay it out. Yeah.
Right? But like, honestly, wanted them to take the time off. I wanted them.
That's why they do unlimited here in California, right? So you don't have the liability on your books.
Right. I had the unlimited, but then like we looked and they weren't taking very many days. And then the hourly people weren't even really taking them, even though like they could pocket the money. Like I wanted people to take time off because they were always better when they came back. So I got really curious. Why weren't they taking the time off? What we found was that when they came back from vacation, it was so overwhelming to them that they didn't want to take vacation. That day or two back, returning from a vacation was so terrible for them that it wasn't worth it. And so what we did is said, okay, when you go on vacation, you must do some version of this email. You decide how you want to write it. But basically what it says is, I'm not going to read this email. I'm out of the office these dates. This email will not be read. Here are some people who can help you. And if I really need to read this email, please resend it after this date. Okay? So very clear expectations to the client or whoever's sending in the email. It's not going to be read. I'm gone. Who can help you? And when can you resend it if I'm really the only person, right? And so that was anxiety creating. People freaked out when I told them they had to do that. But then when they came back from vacation, we had an ostrich meeting. So their team would get together with them on day one when they came back, quick ostrich meeting. What did I miss? Help me get my head out of the sand. What went on when I was gone? And then we would have them screen share and take all of their emails and delete them. So when they came back to the office, they were at inbox 0, right? Took all of that pressure, all of that anxiety. I had to sit and go through all these emails, which 90% of them, the time has passed. Like the thing is gone, but like you feel like some need to read it and to respond.
Yeah, the half-life of a corporate email, a company email is like 24 hours.
Right. But yet
it's like half as valuable a day later. And then like half a quarter of value 2 days later. Like it just
right. But I
love this. So the policy was create a vacation autoresponder that basically says, hey, I'm out of the office. Here's who can help. I'm getting back this date. And what else was in the email?
Your email will not be read by me.
This email will not be read.
It will not.
And then I come back in Monday. I say I'm gone for a week, meet with the team, and I select all and just archive it.
Delete. Now the team tells you
archive. Yeah.
The team tells you, listen, here's what you need to know. Here's what you missed. And by the way, the Johnson account, they're crazy people. They're going to be all over your butt today. You probably want to go back and read their emails. Like those emails are going to be important for you to read because
these are the important ones to actually read.
Right.
Of the 300, 400 emails sitting there, these are the 2 or 3 that I think you should. And your team can get you caught up on that.
Is that everyone freaked out. They told me I was a crazy person. They only did it because I mandated it. And within about 3 months, people were like, this is the best thing. And all of a sudden, vacations.
Just going to inbox 0 is so valuable. Right. I think that's like the most underrated thing I think in business is getting to inbox 0.
Yeah. So all of a sudden I didn't need any more vacation mandates. They all started taking their full vacations, right? So the problem wasn't vacation. The problem was what was happening when they came back from vacation.
They cared so much they didn't want all the balls to drop, right?
Right.
So when you set up a structure, again, from a sociological perspective, this is what's amazing about having a sociology background, is you just kind of look at the structure. You're like, why are people behaving like this? And how do I change the structure? right? Or the culture.
Right. And I was setting
Fascinating.
the tone as the leader, saying, I value vacation. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to make you all go have fun and go relax. And selfishly, I would tell them, you're going to come back with better ideas. You're going to come back and do a better job
Refreshed.
and refreshed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want you to go be miserable. Now, we also had to put in this little, we had a few exceptions, but we had a policy of if you're wired, you're fired. Meaning, if you were on vacation and you were dialing into conference calls or you were showing up on email, you were in big trouble. Like if you're off, you're
I'm
off.
going to literally shut off your corporate access.
So we didn't, at this point, we didn't have like that technology to like shut
Yeah,
it off, like be that kind of person. But like we just told them, like, I don't want it. And if your manager or someone sees it, like we're going to have I never actually had to fire anybody. But I was setting that tone by, again, having a funny little saying. I was reinforcing, I want you to be off. Now, the exceptions were if a salesperson was going to have the deal of the century close right when they were in Hawaii, yeah, they could be on the call. Like, okay, fine. I understand that's going to radically impact their salary and all of that, right? So we had a few tiny exceptions. But for the average employee, it was, if you're off, you're off. I don't want to hear from you. We have your phone number and we promise we will text you if the sky falls. That was our commitment to them. Like if something only you can solve, I promise.
I used to put that in my autoresponder, actually.
Right.
I'm out of the office. I return this day. If urgent, text me. I will not be checking emails.
Right. But like then they would again, their anxiety levels would go down because they cared so much. This wasn't like some other like bad thing. It was because they really cared about the company and they cared about their team and they cared about everything. They didn't want things to fall apart when they were gone, but that was a little too codependent for me. Like I needed them to go away and relax, So those were, and that was amplified by remote work because we really had to work with people to remind them, like, I need you to have a dedicated space because I need you to close your laptop when you're done. I need you to close your office door when you're done, because those were little mental signals that I'm done with work. When we're in an office and we leave the building and we get in our car, that's a mental signal for most of us, we're done with work. And when you're working from home, you don't have that. You leave that computer open, you leave that door open, you go and you start dinner. And the next thing you know, you're coming back and you're doing emails again, right? Or it's 9:00 at night, you put the kids to bed and there's that laptop and you start doing work again. Like I had to really train my people. I don't want you to do that. I need you to stop when you're done, right? Work hard when you work. And then when you're not working, I want you done, off, turn off, like don't. And most of that was because I knew they would do a better job and not be burnt out. There was also a small compliance part. Like technically, they're working more hours. They're not really getting paid. And there was some liability there for us too, especially being in California. Like I didn't want that exposure either. But most of it was like, I just need you guys.
Preventing burnout and having people fresh, right? You can, and I experienced this as a solo GP of my own fund, right? My own firm is, I'm the guy, right? So everything, the buck stops with me. I have contractors and interns and folks like that, but there's no other full-time person. So I feel the burnout and I have to just go, okay, no, it's 7:00. You've put in a 11-hour day, it's dinner time. It's time to just put it away, and you just have to, otherwise you'll just burn yourself out. It's just so easy, especially when you're engaged, like you created a whole culture of engagement at your company and people didn't want to turn it off. And what are some other takeaways or lessons for, our startups out there that are setting up remote teams? And I feel like, every startup now is a remote first company that I talk to.
Yeah. I would say
it's very rare that they go into the office.
There's two other meeting types that we used. I think that'd be really helpful for people. So we talked about like the quick, easy, how do you get help? But then like there's other types. So we would have a tiger team meeting. Now imagine there's a tiger in the bathroom. It's a lot bigger problem. You might need a dart gun, animal control, like strong people to carry it down the stairs, maybe a crane to pull it out. Like it's a big deal. And so when we tell people, hey, you're invited to a tiger team meeting, here's the giant agenda. It's going to be an hour meeting, 2-hour meeting, an all-day meeting, an off-site, like big deal. And then we got
buildings on fire, basically. Yeah, right. Everybody in a room until we figure it out. Right. Yeah.
We landed the $1 million client. We lost the $1 million client. What is the big giant thing we're dealing with? But specifically, hey, you're being called to this meeting, and here's what I need from you. Like, I need you to bring this research. I need you to be prepared to answer questions about this stuff. Like, we were very, very clear about what their role was in that meeting. When you do these things, people show up and they are fantastic. And when you just invite them generically to a meeting and they have no idea what's expected of them, generally get quiet. They generally don't speak up. You have your loudmouths, you have your card-carrying extroverts, hello, that's me, who will say anything at any meeting, anytime. But for most people, they'll sit back and wait and see what other people are going to say and what they're going to do because they don't really know what they're supposed to do. If I tell this story a lot of times, my wife and I took my sons to Germany and Austria and the Czech Republic years ago. And we made the mistake of telling the boys, if we go to a beer garden, you guys can have a beer. Because in Germany, it was legal for them to have a beer at their age.
Yeah, like 13 or 14 or something. Yeah.
And of course, they somehow manipulated the fact that we would go to a beer garden every day. Like, so what do you guys want? Italian today? You want to? I'm just really feeling like a sausage and a pretzel. Every day they somehow found a way to have a beer. But we really loved the beer garden culture. And so I came back, and every year we've always invited like our friends and my wife's teacher friends to a swim party. We might invite 40 people and like 20 might show up. Okay. Little swim party. This year I go, forget it. We're going to have a beer garden party. And so we invited like 40, 50 people like we normally do. But this time I said, you have to dress up or you have to wear German colors. We're only having German food. We're only drinking German beer. During the day, the children are allowed in the pool. Once it turns nighttime, the children better be out of here. The Jägermeister is going to show up. Like I was like, rules, 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 rules. And I thought, no one's going to come. Everyone's going to hate me. And I invited 50 people and 83 people showed up. Why is that? Because they knew exactly how to act. They knew exactly what to do. There was no anxiety about what was going to happen or what they were going to eat or what were they going to drink or when they were supposed to show up or when they were going to leave. I gave them all the rules on how to have fun.
You gave them the agenda and the rules.
And the rules and what they were supposed to do and how do you have fun? You show up, you dress up, you drink beer and you eat the food and you have a great time. And I had a lifeguard for the kids in the pool so the parents could relax and have a couple beers and not worry about the kids so much. We created the environment by being overly organized so they could have the maximum amount of fun. And I just was like blown away by the fact that more people showed up than I invited. Like people brought their friends along.
Beer garden party, have a lifeguard. Yeah,
right.
I love that.
But like,
I might borrow that.
Lower the anxiety levels. And I didn't realize people were so anxious about this stuff. Like for me, I'm not. I can show up to any meeting, anytime, any party, and like I don't worry about that stuff. But most people do. Most people are generally concerned about what there's. That's why birthday parties.
Yeah. Do I eat? Do I bring something? Like all these questions, right? If you just answer all their questions and make it paint by numbers.
Yeah. I told them you had to bring. You could bring beer or you could bring wine, but it better be German, Austrian, or Czech. Like I gave them the rules, and that's why birthday parties are so successful because you know when to show up, when you're allowed to leave, what you're supposed to do. You bring a present. There's going to be a cake. It's going to be crappy hot dogs and burger, but like what's going to happen at a birthday party. There's not really a surprise, right? And so that's why most people come to birthday parties because it's very predictable and you know when you're allowed to leave.
It's at 1 o'clock. Pick your kid up at 3.
Exactly.
They're going to eat. They're going to have cake. They're going to play.
Right.
And yeah.
Right. So we have to do this for our employees. We have got to give them much more structure and much more signaling about what they're supposed to do in different meetings. And for us, we solved this problem by giving different names to different meeting types. Now we had stand-ups and we had team meetings and we had these funny animal names. And those gave everybody a very clear picture. Do I show up? Am I giving ideas? Or am I showing up and shutting up? And just, I'm supposed to take a download here from my boss on this one. So they knew what they were supposed to do. Now, the last and most important meeting that we created that helped us kind of put the glue on everything was the Tsunami planning meeting. Once a month, we created a fake meeting. You might say like, why in the earth would you have one more meeting? Why would you have a fake meeting? But we would give people a fake prompt. So they would meet with their team once a month. It had to be people that they knew. And we would say, what would happen if? What would happen if I went into a coma? What happened if we doubled our business this year? What would happen if we lost one of our large clients? What would happen? Could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. And because it was a fake thing, they were so much freer to talk and to give ideas and to be
almost like a pre-mortem. Like imagine we just lost $1 million client. What happened?
Right.
And this would happen like once a month. You do a tsunami and it'd be.
Yeah.
And would you have the topic ahead of time so people knew that they're going to discuss this potential catastrophic?
They didn't know until they got there, but we would talk about it as a senior team about what the topic would be this month because we might want them to think about things or not think about things. And every team did the same tsunami planning. So then we would get these really cool answers and these really cool ideas that sometimes we turned into action. And sometimes we did nothing with it. It was just an exercise in them practicing how to be assertive, how to raise their hand, how to say something, how to be heard. But it was also what turned out to be the most important thing that came out of Tsunami. This was a total accident. I did this because I wanted them to be innovative. But it turns out it was meeting maintenance for the leaders. They were able to discover in that meeting who the bad operators were in the meetings. Maybe Bob and Susie never shut up. And you have these other three employees who never really talked because Bob and Susie won't shut up. They're so excited and they have these ideas and they have all these things. And you have three people in that meeting who never get to talk. And so that was the moment when the leader would go back to Bob and Susie and say, hey, this month, can you really work on making sure everyone gets heard? Can you make sure that before you speak the second time, other people have had an opportunity? Like just to give them a little bit of coaching and then go to those other three people and say, hey, I really need you this month to be a bit more assertive. I want to hear what you have to say. I want you to get your ideas out there. I want you, we hired you because you're a great person and a smart person. We want to hear from you. Right. And so every month you would have that little tinkering moment of who's having a hard time and who's doing too much or too little and figure out what kind of coaching they needed to do, because that was like the real version of them in this moment. And as soon as we did that our meetings all the rest of the month were so much better. Right. And people really got heard and we all know those people that come into a meeting and they're just like, they're overwhelming. They don't stop talking. They somehow
Yeah, I had our last episode, the episode before you was we were talking about introverts, right? And he has the Powerful Introvert podcast, I think. And he was talking about, there's shy extroverts and shy introverts. And then there's outgoing introverts and outgoing extroverts. It was a pretty fascinating conversation. So you have these people in this meeting, basically once they get talking, they're very extroverted, but there's other ones like Bob and Susie who are describing who are just, they think out loud and everything's like just out there. And you almost have to kind of turn to the silent people and create space. How did you kind of handle those dynamics?
Well, it was a lot of coaching. And so, we would work with those leaders and have them tell us, what they were seeing. And then we might give suggestions. And a lot of times it was just using this concept of feed forward. So instead of feedback, which is, I think, inherently negative, where I'm like, hey, Brian, we just had this tsunami planning meeting and like, dude, you talked like half the time. There was 8 people in the meeting and you talked half the time. Like, what's up?
Yeah, it feels kind of, I'm being attacked, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
It feels like you're being attacked. But if I said, hey, Brian, I noticed in the meeting you're really passionate and that's awesome. But can you make sure in all the meetings this month, can you just really work on making sure that everyone gets heard, or making sure that you don't interject a second time until everyone else has had an opportunity?
Feed forward, not feedback. I love that. I've never heard that before, but it totally makes sense. You're not giving feedback on the behavior. You're saying you're giving them an ideal to live up to.
Right. Next time. Because everyone's like, I can do that. Right. Oh,
yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Sure. I can think about that. No.
You're giving them a goal, like a little mini goal, like everybody wants to accomplish. Right. So instead of saying like feeling hurt, sad, depressed, attacked about how I behaved, it's much more like, hey, next time in that situation, could you try to get George and whoever to talk more?
Yeah. Can you involve them? Can you make sure?
Can you involve them? Create space for them,
right. And same thing to George, like, hey, George, like, I noticed that you aren't really, talking. And I know that Bob talks a lot, but like, I really need you to think about how you're going to interject or how you're going to get heard, because your voice matters. You're important. Like, to give them that coaching too. I really want you to make sure that in every meeting you're in, that you have said what you think. I want that to be your goal. I want you to make sure that you have, spoken up. And then again,
man, I wish I would have done this podcast before I became a manager. There's so many nuggets of wisdom here that, some of them are familiar, right? Like you kind of learn about like in trial and error as a manager, for better or worse. And then, yeah, a lot of these are just real gold. So I hope founders out there are taking notes, because this is, real good advice on how to create great culture.
And for me, the better our culture got, the faster things went, the better sales were, the better our customer service was. Like, everything got better when we got our people and our culture right.
Culture eats strategy for breakfast, right? Is the old phrase. I bet you agree with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just, we would bring in people to help us with sales and help us with this and help us with that. But like, they couldn't be in meetings that were terrible all day long and then magically like try to go execute on something new. Like, their day-to-day had to be good. right? And just think about like an athlete. And if your training program is good and your diet's good and your coach is good and your training facility is good, like you have the best shot to then go do your best. And it's the same thing for our people, right? Those environments have to be great. I mean, everything going on has to be the best it possibly can be. And I just feel like leaders kind of leave that to chance, and they kind of don't think, they expect it to be better than it is. And I don't know, like I was guilty of it for like 8 years. Like that's what I was doing. And I realized that like we weren't even close to what good could be. And I just made that my focus, and we just took off, right? It was crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I have in my notes here a 7-pillar strategy.
Mhm.
What is that and what makes it stick?
So when I was really thinking about how do I change the culture, the question I asked myself is, well, what am I supposed to change it to? And there were a lot of great ideas about culture out in the marketplace. I read hundreds of books. I couldn't find something that was like, what is the blueprint that you're supposed to do that works for every company? And so I went back and really worked on this. I developed these 7 pillars. We tested it, we researched it. I worked within many, many different organizations. And to my satisfaction, came to the point where these 7 things consistently work in every organization, no matter who you are. If you're good at these 7, you will have a great culture. Now, how you interpret these, how you go about this, that's different company by company. If you're a med tech company, it's going to be totally different than if you're doing an AI SaaS company or something. But ultimately, you have to think about how you're going to implement these. So the 7 are transparency, positive leadership, listening, uniqueness, measurement, recognition, and then how do we deal with mistakes? So those are the 7 things you have to be really good at. And typically, when I go in to help an organization, they're good at 2 or 3 of those. They have a decent culture and they're good at 2 or 3 of them. Like, yeah, we have a recognition program, and we measure things pretty well. Like we know what works and what doesn't work, and that. But then like I go, cool, but we're struggling over here, and it's like, hey, how transparent are you? Do people know each other's goals? Do teams know each other's goals? Does the company know what the big goal is and the sales goal? And like, are we showing up and telling people what's good and what's not good? Are we being honest about that we lost people and that we hired somebody? Like, are we sharing information? We gave everyone every single month our P&L summary, and that radically changed things for us, right? Because people started to understand, how do we make the money? How do we spend the money? And I didn't give them the detail. I would give different departments.
Like labor as a line item,
Right. Payroll.
COGS as a line item.
Payroll is like a big giant
payroll.
item, right? They don't know what people make, but like we started to talk about, those things. And what was really fascinating was, so like our research department, we would send them the detail of the vendors that related to their department. Like the number was, 500,000. Well, I would send them the detail about those vendors in that for them to talk about in their team meetings. Within 1 year, we were 35% more profitable. I never asked anybody to go find ways to save money or whatever, but they on their own started just connecting the dots and saying,
you're looking at it like an executive. You're creating agency in the organization where they're now looking at, oh, wow, that's a big line item. I didn't realize we're spending that much, and that's impacting our profitability.
And they would ask why, and they would ask, well, how do we impact that? And if they got curious, that we would give them more information, or we would hold additional meetings, or I would show up in a meeting and like help them try to understand it. And people just started saying things, well, like, why do we have 2 vendors for this thing? We could just like get one vendor, get a discount. And I was like, I didn't know we were using 2 vendors for that. Like the company got so big at some point, like I don't have the visibility at that granular level. And I was like, cool, do that. And then someone would call me up and go, I noticed our healthcare, costs are really high. My brother-in-law, Brian or whatever, has got, this company. He can give us a quote. Cool, go get a quote. It can't hurt. Here's all the information. Here's what we pay. Here's the amount of people we have. Here's the coverage we get. Go get a quote from, and then come back. We'd save 25% of healthcare costs. And I'm like, holy crap. Like they just started, again, they cared and they had agency towards it, and they had ability. And we weren't like bonusing people. We weren't, there was no ulterior motives. It was just us sharing and us being upfront.
You can't manage anything you don't have the numbers, data for, right? You have to measure things to manage them, right? And so you're actually indirectly creating this measurement psychology in the organization. At Amazon, we would have a weekly business review where we all got in to a room, like 30, 40 people on the team, and we reviewed the metrics on the business, and we talked through every single line item. And it was, painful, but it created a lot of great conversations and ideas about what's happening in the business.
And we did this in 30 minutes, once a month. Every department head showed up and said, our goal is, here's what we did this month. This is where we are year to date. This is how we're tracking towards our goal. Good month, bad month, all of that. If things were going bad, this is what we're going to do to fix it. But they had like 5 to 7 minutes to do their little spiel for the whole company. Sales would do it, marketing would do it, accounting would do it, research would do it. And then at the end, I got what was left. I always took the last little bit, 5 to 7 minutes. I would introduce anybody new to the company. I might address if we lost a key person and be really honest about it, so that I'm controlling the narrative, right? I'm telling them the truth, and then they're not hearing it through the whispers and the rumor mills or whatever. Like, hey, Tom left us for whatever. He wanted a lot more money and we just couldn't do it. We wish him the best, but like that was the real deal. Like we love Tom, but wish him the best, but we couldn't pay him double his salary. That's just not going to happen, and Amazon offered him double. So enjoy.
As Amazon does, right. Especially back then.
Right. So we were just really honest. And then I would pull up the P&L and I would show them, okay, here's the numbers, everybody. And this is our goal for sale, our overall for P&L and all that. What was amazing is that people always say to me, well, weren't you worried they're going to ask you for a raise or ask you for things when the company was doing well? And aren't you afraid that they were going to leave or quit if the things weren't going well? And initially I was, but that never happened, not one time. When things went well, people understood that there was going to be months when they didn't. And so that was a buffer for us. And that allowed us to not have to lay people off. Like, I wasn't a CEO that was just going to lay people off if all of a sudden we were down 20%. Like, we had buffers in there from good months if things changed, right? Or we had to hire a bunch of people. So now our profitability went down. Now we need to do more sales to get that profitability back up. And we would explain that to people and they understood that. And so when we had 3 bad months in a row, we'd be like, listen, this is what we're going to do about it.
So this is, which pillar was it again? Is this transparency? What's it called?
I put this under transparency, and you could tie it to measurement as well, right? About measuring what matters. But this was all about transparency. And then again, in those team meetings, every person knew every person's goal. If you were on a team with someone, you knew what their goals were for the year. It wasn't a
So let's step back and kind of take all the pillars again, because I think it's fascinating and I'd love to kind of peel them apart for our startups, especially fast growing ones. As you kind of work with these fast growing startups, which ones are they getting right? They're probably measuring, but of all those 7 pillars, let's just take them one by one. Like, what should startups be aware of? What are they getting right and wrong usually? And what should they look out for?
Usually they really struggle with transparency because you're starting up and like the money's crazy. And like, I don't know, maybe as the founder, you're paying yourself some ridiculous amount of money. I don't know. Like there could be some, I don't know, little problems, little monsters.
I do recall this actually being a founder myself and also being an employee at multiple startups throughout the years. The transparency was pretty lacking, you know, until you get really developed in your post IPO, right?
Yeah. I think if you can tell people right away as much as you can possibly tell them. Now, every startup's going to decide what they're comfortable with. But are you sharing the wins and the losses? Are you sharing the goals? Are you sharing the vision? Are you sharing as much data and information as possible? I mean, honestly, right now, we're in the golden age of being able to be transparent. You should be creating a ChatGPT bot for your company and dumping everything in there you want employees to have, to know, to be able to access. And if they want to know that, then you share that, that GPT across your entire company, and they can go in there and find out anything they want, anytime they want, right? There are so many great ways.
And we have some portfolio companies that can help you do that, by the way.
Yeah. So there's so many great transparency ways, but then you as the leader got to keep showing up and repeating that information and reminding people of those things. It can't just be, well, I said it one time. I told everyone our goal was 60 million, that's our BHAG. And then you never say it again because people forget.
What's a BHAG? I mean, I know, but some people may not know.
Jim Collins famously brought this term in Good to Great. It's the big, hairy, audacious goal. I think every company should have a BHAG. Like, what's that big, giant, we may not ever get there, but what's that big, huge thing we're going for? Because if you're not stretching, right? If you're like, hey, our goal this year is $2 million. Well, good luck getting to 2 million. Because if it's, hey, we're at 2 million is our goal this year, but we're trying to get to 60. That's a very different outlook about your trajectory and how people.
Yeah, you should almost think of like order of magnitude goals that make you extremely uncomfortable. Like, this is almost impossible, but we're going to try.
People think differently when you tell them our goal is 2 million versus, our goal this year is 2 million, but 60 million is where we're headed. They think differently, right? They start coming up
Makes
with
them think
formulas.
bigger, long term. Yeah, this was always I think this is a leadership principle at Amazon is think big. Think big. And we'd be in a meeting and people would pull out these leadership principles and one would be, like, I'm going to disagree and commit, which is one. I don't think you're thinking big enough. They use two leadership principles to give, feedback right in the meeting.
Right, right.
Or feed forward.
I mean, and that's like, it's wonderful. They have, Amazon has a language and they have an architecture that allows them to kind of reinforce that culture. Now, whether or not you like Amazon's culture or not, it's very different than Meta's and very different than Apple's and very different than Google's. And but it's very clear, right? And that's what I appreciate.
It's the best run company I've ever worked for.
Right, right. Very
Easily.
clear. And I know people
Yeah,
that worked there and they
clear.
hated it. Like it was not for them, and that's fine.
Oh, yeah.
But it was very clear about who they are and how they operate and what they do and how you can be successful in that company. And that is what I'm talking about here, right? How do you be so clear that employees know exactly how to jump in and help and exactly how to be successful, instead of leaving it to this, like, I don't really know, and like only the best of the best figure it out, right? We need to be able to have everyone be able to figure it out, not just the people who are savvy enough to navigate that stuff.
Right. What are some other pillars that startup founders should pay attention to?
Definitely.
I mean, they should pay attention to all of them. But
yeah, definitely positivity. So the positivity pillar says we need to do a couple things. One, how do you say yes a lot more, right? Now, yes and yes, but I did an entire year of saying yes. Now, I didn't tell anybody I was going to do that, but like every question, everything that came to me, it was yes, or let's talk about how I can make that happen. Like I was open to every conversation instead of, no, we've done that before. No, that didn't work. No, we don't have the budget. No, that's not the right time for that. No, we only give raises in December. Like I found that my employees were kind of like hitting a wall with me and then they just didn't ever come back. And so if I was more open and saying yes and having this, even if we didn't end up being able to do it, if the first response was like, cool, let's talk about that, that really shifted the momentum and shifted the relationship I was having with them, because then they were bringing me better things and better things and better things. Because I got in a habit of like, if I come up with something great, Chris is actually going to listen to me, or my boss is going to listen to me, right? Because we were permeating that through the organization. But the positivity pillar is also, how do we focus on what's working? And I love this in lots of different ways, because I have talked to so many startups that are like, listen, we're doing awesome. We sell this thing and we're making 80% profit on it and it's kicking ass and we're going to go to the moon. And guess what? Because that's so good, I'm starting 13 other projects over here, these little experiments that are going to take up all my time and energy. And I'm like, why? You have this thing that you just told me is the best thing ever that is making 80% profit and you're going to go to the moon. Why are you starting 13 brand new projects again? Right? And they're like, oh, I don't know, because I'm supposed to, So we want to focus on what's working first in everything we do. Why are your two top salespeople your two top salespeople? Do you know? Do you really know why they're successful? And if you do, have they taught that to everyone else in the sales team? Right? Or are you spending all of your time focusing on the 4 salespeople below their quota? I'll guarantee your sales manager is all over those 4 people. They're on every email, they're on every meeting, they're reviewing every one of their proposals. They're all over them. And those 4 people aren't getting any better. And yet you're leaving those 2 salespeople over there in this room. And you're like, don't touch them. Don't talk to them. Don't mess them up. Like they're gold. No. Get in there and be like, why are you so successful? What are the habits? What are the things you're doing? What are you not doing? Right? Not everything they're doing is going to directly translate to every single other salesperson, but there's going to be gold in there. I did a big SKO at the beginning of the year for a big software company.
What's an SKO?
Sales kickoff, sorry. A big sales kickoff. So we had 300 salespeople in the room. Most of them were amazing. And I called on the number 1 salesperson for that previous year. And I asked him, I said, tell me why you're so successful. He was he's a very nice guy. He had a hard time really articulating why he was so good. And I said, well, tell me one thing that you think you don't do that everyone else does. And he goes, oh, that's really easy. He goes, last year I decided to stop putting on the pricing like $5,000 and then it would have a strike through and it would say $45.99. He's like, they somehow were taught to put the main price, but then show there was if they acted now, they got the discounted price. He said he eliminated that and just put the $45.99. His conversions went up 30%. There was something in the psychology that he picked up on with his buyers that if he was giving them a discount before they ever asked for the discount, they were looking
They're going to keep asking for discounts.
keep asking for discount, but they also were looking at his product at a lower value because he was already discounting before they even asked. And that meant there was some in their back of their mind, is this a quality product? Is this a good company? And so he decided on his own to eliminate that. Didn't tell anybody. He had the best year in the company. And so what did we do? Immediately the CEO stood up and said, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe this." Right? And he's like, "From now on, we're getting rid of that." Right? They told me immediately within 3 months that they were already closing 35% more. Right? That's one little.
But it's interesting you framed it like that. It was because you said, "Hey, what are you doing?" It's like, I don't know. He kind of like didn't have a good answer. It's like, what are you not doing that everyone else is doing? That's an interesting framing.
Yeah. But I want to know, like, I'm ultimately trying to figure out what's working for him. And so I had to keep asking him questions because he was a very modest guy and he wasn't like, oh, I'm the best at my sales calls or whatever, He made this change. Very smart guy, knows the product really well. I mean, there was a bunch of other things, like baseline things, but that was the shift he made last year. That was the one thing he could pinpoint. I made that shift. I noticed I'm closing a lot more of my deals. And so you're like, now in my head, I'm going, holy crap, how did you not tell everyone in the company? Right. And he just didn't think of it that way. And also, like, there's probably some, like, he's enjoying being at the top and he's enjoying winning.
Yeah. I want to go to President's Club and fly to Maui
and
or
all
whatever.
that, right? But here, when I asked him straight out, and I'm sure if his boss had asked him straight out, he would have answered the question honestly. So startups especially really need to be ultra focused on what is working and being really focused and fascinated and like getting very curious. And why is that working? And what are we going to do to keep that going? And to avoid all of the distractions of starting 15 other little side projects. If it makes sense, you need to have one other side project. You need to have one other experiment going. That's cool. I get that. We can't be totally stagnant in our businesses and never make any changes or do any other experiments. But there are better ways to find those things, right? In conversations with clients and things like that, you find new ways to accelerate the business.
Do you know how he did the next year? Now that the playing field was level on that strategy?
Oh, in the first quarter, they were already up. Every salesperson. Now, they were up 35% in total new sales. I don't know if it was from that one small change or all of the other training that we did, but they told me that in Q1, so we did this at the very beginning of January, Q1, they were closing 35% more.
Yeah. Do you know how that individual sales guy did the next year? Salesperson.
I know he's up at the top right now.
Oh, he's still up at the top.
Up at the top. I don't know if he'll be number one. We'll see at the end of the year. And he has always been in the top 3, right? He's not like he's that guy who's like, so far ahead of everybody else, no one's ever going to catch him. He's always a top 3 or 4 guy. But that was a shift he made last year, which was really interesting. I taught them this thing about the ladder of abstraction. And so he had a new idea of something he was going to go and experiment with that I had given him. And so I'm really curious at the end of the year, I have a call scheduled for him like December 28th or something, like to see how that experiment went, right, for him. Because there's so many little things that we can do and to think about. So the positivity is a really, really big one. Probably the other one that I would point out that would be the most important is how do you deal with mistakes? In startups, a lot of times we're doing things, breaking things. And if we're yelling and screaming at people or making them feel like they can't screw anything up, then we get people who just take a step back and wait for managers or leaders to make all the decisions for them. And that is the death of a startup, I think. We need people to understand how to make decisions, understand the business at a strong level, that they can take a leap of confidence and make a decision when someone isn't there to help them and someone isn't there to answer that question, or the boss finally took a vacation, that they can make a reasonable guess at what they're supposed to do because they understand things at a high enough level that it's a pretty good shot. And if it's not, we can figure out how to fix it, right? Now, there's errors and there are mistakes. So errors are, I wasn't trained properly, I'm drinking on the job, I'm apathetic, I don't care, like I don't get proper sleep. Like, you may have a nurse work a triple shift, medication suddenly is not getting handed out correctly. They're sleep deprived, right? Those are errors because of things that are happening. Mistakes are, I'm trying to do the right thing. I honestly, with the information I had, I thought I was making the right decision. I tried this thing and it didn't work. And that we should celebrate our employees for. We should be high-fiving them and saying, thank you for being confident enough and for trying to do that thing. Now, here's how we're going to fix this. I'm sure you've done Scrum and Agile and retrospectives and things like that. It's the same thing. Like in a retrospective meeting, we say, well, what didn't work? And how could we have done better next time, right? We don't show up to a meeting and go like, well, Brian screwed it all up because he did this one thing and that slowed us down. And we say, no, we made an error early on. Here's how we can fix this. In the next sprint run, we know not to do that. And we're going to get even faster and better next time, right? Scrum and Agile gives us that framework and that language, which is awesome. But for most companies, they don't have that. They don't do a retrospective. They don't ever bring their team together and say, hey, we just did this project. I know it was a little bumpy. Let's talk about how we could have, what decisions we could have made differently, we could have done better with, train people, upskill people, so they feel more confident the next time.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's wrap up with a rapid fire. That sounds good.
Awesome.
What's your favorite leadership book not written by you?
Favorite leadership book is The Art of Gathering.
Oh, interesting. I haven't heard of that one. What's that about?
Yeah, and it gets a little bit about how I kind of got into all those meetings and stuff. So the author is probably one of the best curators of creating a meeting or an event. And so if you want to get better at creating better experiences for your employees or your customers or your vendors or whoever, this book really talks about how do you create that moment in time to have a great experience, that great outcome, again, by telling people the rules and helping them understand what's going to happen. The Art of Gathering just totally blew my mind. There's lots of other fantastic leadership books out of there, but that one I think is the one that just threw me for a loop, and in a good way.
What's your sweet spot? In office, hybrid, or fully remote?
Fully remote.
If you're fully remote, how often should you get the team together and do like a team on-site, off-site kind of thing?
We always did full company once a year. And that was enough for most people to have that. I need to bump elbows with you or give you a hug or whatever. Management team was like my senior team was once a month in person. My sales team was once a quarter at minimum. They generally were together more than that because they'd be at a conference or something else, but at least once a quarter for a strategic, they would sit down and talk about their business and get help and all of that. I found everybody else didn't really need more than that.
What's the most common culture myth you hear?
Most common culture myth I hear? That I have a good culture.
What's one tech trend you're bullish on for the future of work?
Certainly, I think the trend is that we're going to see a huge reduction in entry-level positions because of AI. That's going to have a huge consequence into how do we actually upskill people and how do we have people there when we need them to take on the larger roles and positions in the company. But I think we're going to see this huge, my prediction is this is the summer of 69. Like this is your last summer to actually understand AI and to have your business ready and to think or to launch that startup or do whatever you're going to do. Because after ChatGPT 5 comes out here at the end of the summer, I think the world is about totally change, right?
Oh yeah. It's already impacting my organization.
It already is,
sure.
but it's going to go to finally tip the scales.
Well, it's getting an order of magnitude better every year, which people just can't wrap their brains around that, but that means it's 10x better every year. So it's already at PhD level, reasoning and Q&A, and pretty soon it'll be at that expert level for doing tasks.
Yeah. ChatGPT by itself got 800 million users in 17 months. It took smartphones 5 years to reach that same level, right? Now that's just ChatGPT. That's not Claude, and that's not Grok, and that's not DeepSeek. And there's a lot of people using multiples, but that adoption level is insane.
Yeah. So never seen it before.
Yeah.
And it's just, I think the summer 69 analogy is correct. I think you haven't seen nothing yet. It's underhyped.
So if you've been hiding under a rock, this is your time right now, this summer, to get caught up. Hurry up and go.
Go get ChatGPT Pro and mess around. Who is the most impactful podcast guest you've ever hosted?
Impactful podcast guest. Wow, that is a good one. David Marquet is one of my favorite authors. I had him on a couple of times. I thought he was great. He had a great book called Turn the Ship Around, which probably would have been my second choice if you would ask me for a second book. I've had Marshall Goldsmith on a few times. He's a prolific writer. He's actually the inventor of the feed forward concept. And those have been some really great guests. I've been really fortunate to have some executives from all around the world and big companies, but those two as thought leaders have always really kind of captured my attention, and their stories are very
Yeah. I love having authors I enjoy on the podcast. Those are the best. Which company besides your own do you think has nailed culture?
It's an interesting question because, as I kind of mentioned before, Amazon has nailed culture. I don't know if I want to work in Amazon, right?
No, it's a very particular kind of culture.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've nailed it. Right. I think Google has certainly, there are some companies, some really good examples. GitHub has a great, sort of way in which they think about culture. There are some really good shining examples that are wildly different on how they implement things. So those are some good examples.
If you had to give a TED Talk tomorrow, what would the title be?
AI and the Human Algorithm.
I love that. Well, it's been a great conversation. We'll have to have you back on it at some point in the future. I learned so much, and I'm sure a lot of the founders and people on Team Ignite will learn a ton listening to this. Where can folks find you online?
You can find me at chrisdyer.com. I do a lot of content on TikTok and Instagram Reels if you want to hang out there. Of course, LinkedIn. And if anybody would like a little guide on like questions to ask your employees or the breakdown of all those meetings we talked about, you can text me 33777 and just put my name, Chris, and send that, and I'll send you back a PDF that you can download for free.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Ryan.